Okay, let me hide this. So now we're in section 2. We're going to discuss legislative powers, examine powers in detail, and describe limits on the power of the legislative branch. So here's 3 powers, or 2 powers in a clause. Express powers are specific powers given. Now remember, we talked about express powers also when it comes from the Constitution that express specific things. Implied powers are powers that are not specific. So express powers are powers that are given. Implied are powers that are not specified, but they still have. And the elastic clause allows Congress to stretch its powers. If there's a need for it, allows them to kind of adjust it a little bit in order to meet whatever need there is. To pay for the government and many of the services it provides, Congress has the power to collect taxes. That's something that what people have to do. If you don't do it, it's tax evasion. It's against the law. All tax bills start in the House since that is part of Congress that represents the people, but it has to be approved by the Senate. No government agency can spend money without the approval of Congress. So they have to approve different agencies. And then you'll hear that they're getting a budget together. They passed the budget for this year. And that means that they've specified what different groups can spend what kind of money. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3 of the Constitution gives Congress the power to regulate foreign and interstate commerce. Remember, this was an issue when it came to the time when they was trying to figure out how the Constitution would be set up. Remember, the southern states didn't want them to do this because they were afraid they were going to tax exports, and this was going to hurt the South. They came up with the idea that Congress could regulate foreign interstate trade. They just couldn't tax exports and couldn't get rid of the slave trade for 20 years. That was the compromise they came up with. The Commerce Clause is the reason for many of the trade laws. This deals with air traffic, trucking, radio, television, air pollution, the stock market, all these different things. Only Congress can declare war. Now, listen, this is important. And we talked about checks and balances, how one branch does one thing and the other one does another, so that one doesn't get too powerful. Congress can declare war, but once they do, the president controls the troops. So Congress, for example, the Democrats had the House and the Senate, and a Republican was in the presidency. If they declare war, they would ultimately be giving the power of the full military to the president at that point. So the president can send troops somewhere for 6 months without congressional approval. There's an emergency, but after 6 months, if Congress doesn't have approval to stay there, they have to come home. That keeps the president in check. Congress can declare war, but they can't control what happens after that. So that keeps Congress in check. The Senate must approve treaties, and only Congress has the power to create, maintain, and oversee an army and a navy. Now, of course, we have already got an army and a navy, so they maintain and oversee that. Even though, again, Joe Biden now, Joe Biden, or the president, is over that. So, again, when the Democrats had control of the House and Senate, if Donald Trump was still president, then he would be the commander-in-chief, but they would maintain and oversee the military. So that's kind of how it works. The Constitution allows Congress to propose constitutional amendments by 2/3 vote of both houses. Both houses have to have 2/3 of the people vote yes in order to allow a constitutional amendment. That's the reason we only got 27. Congress is in charge of counting the electoral votes. At the end of the election, they count it and make it official. And Congress also oversees checks and balances, which sounds like it would be, an issue because they're considered under checks and balances, but it's not, because there's things that keeps them in check also. Congress has the power to approve or reject presidential nominees for various high-ranking officials, such as the Supreme Court justices. The House also has the sole authority to impeach officials. The word impeach just means accuse officials of misconduct in office. So the House has the ability to impeach or accuse an official of misconduct. They did this twice in the last year with Donald Trump. The House brought him up on charges both times, went to the Senate, and they acquitted him or found him not guilty. The House does not use its impeachment powers often. Only 3 presidents have been impeached. and I can update this to say in 2020 also, but Andrew Johnson in 1868, Bill Clinton in 98, and then Donald Trump was impeached both in 2019 and in technically 2021, because it was the very beginning of this year they impeached him and all that. All were tried by the Senate and acquitted, so they would not be removed from office. Andrew Johnson was impeached because of his accused unlawful removal of Secretary of State Edwin Stanton. Bill Clinton, because he lied under oath. Donald Trump was impeached for having foreign powers and getting involved in our elections. And the second time was for inciting a riot on the January 6th storming of the Capitol. Congress also oversees government activity. They also conduct special investigations, such as Watergate, which happened in the 70s with Richard Nixon. The Constitution also tells Congress what they cannot do, as they can't favor one state over another, they can't tax interstate commerce or tax exports. Again, that goes back to what they came up with the establishment of the Constitution. Congress also cannot suspend writ of habeas corpus, which is a court order requiring police to bring a prisoner to court to explain why they are being held. So the writ of habeas corpus is where the police have to explain why someone's been held. They can't say this goes back to our constitutional rights, that they can't arrest you and hold you without giving you a reason. Congress also can't pass bills of attainder, which are laws that punish a person without a jury trial. Congress also can't pass ex post facto laws, which means they make something a crime after it's already happened. So, for example, if someone has committed a crime a year ago and Congress makes it a crime today, they can't go in and say, you did this a year ago, so now you're going to jail. It doesn't work that way. They can't interfere with the power of the states, such as regulating public school systems and establishing local governments. And checks and balances also keep Congress in check. So that brings us into Section 2, so we'll move into Section 3 now.